Have you ever done something big that you didn't necessarily want to do, but you just did it because it just seemed like the right thing to do? And if you did, how did that change your life? Did it change it in any way that was significant? Well, Captain Kidd was an honorable man if he was anything. And that is why I think he agreed to return little Johanna to her family 400 miles south down into San Antonio after she had been rescued from captivity. He didn't want to do it. After all, he was 71 years old. He was tired and really, frankly, just kind of done with life. But who was Captain Kidd? And who was Johanna? Johanna was a little girl who, at the age of 4, saw her parents and her little sister killed in a raid and was captured by the Kiowa tribe and adopted by them and taken to live with them. She lived with them for 4 years, and then when she was 10 years old, was rescued. Britt, a freed black slave, had rescued her. He had a history of being able to rescue these children. His own son had been rescued from the Kiowa tribe. And so now she is needing to be returned to her family of origin down in San Antonio. But Wichita Falls was as far as Britt could take her. It was, after all, it was dangerous country, and Johanna had already escaped several times, and it was really so sad. Johanna knew herself to be Cicada. Her father was Turning Water, and her mom was Three Spotted, and she just wanted to go home. And who were these strange men who spoke a strange language, and where were they taking her? And this is where Captain Kidd comes in. Jefferson Kyle Kidd, a veteran of 2 wars, a tall, gray-haired, kind of distinguished gentleman, had been a printer. He lost his business in the war, was a veteran of 2 wars, the War of 1812 and the Mexican-American War, and had lived through the Civil War. So having lost his business, and he was now a newspaper reader, although he'd been doing that for many years. That meant that he just traveled from one small town to another small town reading newspaper articles to crowds of people who showed up. And he had been doing this for a number of years. After having seen war, he thought if people could just understand each other, if they could read about or hear about the struggles that other people deal with, if they could be educated about things, then they would not want to have wars. And so this was his way of kind of spreading peace. It was also his way of earning a little money, because everybody who came to listen would pay a dime, and that, wasn't a lot of money for him, but it was enough to help him get by, do what he needed to do. So Britt, the man who rescued Johanna, shows up at one of these readings, and after it's over, he pulls Captain Kidd aside. He shares with him everything that he knows about Johanna, which really isn't a lot. She does not remember anything about her previous life. She does not speak English. In fact, the only reason he knows what he does is because his own son had been rescued from captivity by the Kiowa tribe and knew the language and was able to talk with Johanna. He explained how the struggles that these children go through when they try to come back into their where they had been before, their families of origin, that it was very, very difficult. They did not like to live in houses. They kind of had the need to travel and live outside and live, I guess, a more free life. And historically, we do know this to be true, that children who had been raised in tribes as family members, they very rarely transitioned back into their, I guess, typical American lives once they were returned. It was very traumatic for them, and Johanna certainly was not an exception. She was, of course, she hadn't been returned to her family yet, but she was already struggling with this transition. She missed her family, her her Native American family. And I think that Captain Kidd's heart just went out to her immediately, because all he said was, well, first of all, he asked a whole bunch of questions to figure out if there was anything else, any other way to get her down to San Antonio. But finally, he just kind of said, well, and Britt said, I knew you would. And Captain Kidd said, yes, so. And there it begins. Captain Kidd and Johanna began their 400-mile journey from Wichita Falls to San Antonio. And it's the beginning of a story that is rich in themes of trust and responsibility and courage and honor. Captain Kidd's sole purpose after that was to keep this little girl safe. And like any good Western, it was a challenge. The journey was rife with dangerous things and struggles that they had. And he, at times, was a little bit resentful. He was a widower who had raised 2 daughters, and he often thought to himself, I have already done this. I have raised my daughters. Why am I doing this again? And frankly, he had come to a place in life where he was a little indifferent to life. I mean, he saw that he didn't have a whole lot of years left in him, and he was just really kind of done with it. He had seen everything. He had seen people's causes. He had seen their wars, their fashions, the things that were important to them. He'd seen all of those things come and go and then come back around, and he just thought, I think he just was ready to be done with it. He would not have cared if he had been shot, but he took his responsibility very seriously to take care of Johanna. He often thought of himself as a cranky old man, and when he got to thinking, I've already done this, he would hear this voice from heaven. He said it sounded an awful lot like his father saying, well then, do it again. Now, I asked you at the beginning of this video if you had ever done something big that you didn't really want to do, but did it anyway, and how it changed your life. Well, and I probably don't have to tell you that this journey did in fact change the life of Captain Jefferson Kyle Kidd. Can a Western be sweet? Well, yes, I'm here to tell you it can be. And I know because News of the World by Paulette Giles is a sweet read. It's funny, I always thought of Westerns as like older books, but this one was published in 2016 and it was a National Book Award finalist. If you are interested in knowing about another Western that's probably more of a classic, I invite you to check out this video. And if you are a lover of books like I am, I hope you'll join me for future videos. I hope you'll subscribe. I read a book every single week. I'm doing that in 2025. And I'm posting a video about it. So maybe you will discover some new books that you would enjoy reading. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I hope you have a great week. Happy reading.